My name is Daniel Brooks. I live in a small town outside of Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a high school history teacher, and I've spent most of my life within 10 miles of where I grew up. I'm the kind of guy who keeps old baseball cards in showboxes, still listens to records, and prefers a slow cup of coffee to any kind of fast-paced rush. My life hasn't been glamorous, but lately, it's felt like something out of a movie. It started after my grandfather, Earl Bishop, passed away. He lived up on Raven Hill in a little wooden cabin he built himself after the Korean War. We weren't close. Honestly, I can count on one hand how many real conversations we had. He wasn't cruel, just distant. Quiet. I remember his handshake being firm, but his hugs non-existent. When we were kids, my brother Michael and I would visit with our parents, but Grandpa Earl mostly sat on the porch with a cigarette, nodding more than talking. When the wool was red, it was short. Grandpa left the cabin to me and Michael. No cash, no family heirlooms, just that old place we hadn't set foot in for almost 15 years. Our parents suggested selling it off, but something in me said we should at least go take a look. So that summer, Michael and I took a few weeks off work, packed some tools, and drove up with a plan to renovate it ourselves. If nothing else, it would be a little project for two brothers to do together. The cabin was worn down, leaning slightly to one side, wood faded to gray. Inside, it smelled like dust and wood smoke, exactly like I remembered. We started pulling down the old wallpaper, clearing out boxes filled with expired canned goods and newspapers from the 60s. We joked that it was like a time capsule. But 3 days in, we found something neither of us could laugh about. Behind a bookshelf in the main room, I noticed a hollow sound when I tapped the wall. We peeled back the paneling, and inside was a false compartment, one I'm sure no one had touched in decades. $20s, $50s, hundreds of dollars. Tucked neatly inside were rubber-banded stacks of cash. Some of the bills were so old they looked like they belonged in a museum. And under a floorboard. At first, we thought it was just a few $100s. Then we found more behind the fireplace. And in a tin labeled "Old Nails," there were silver coins and a note. You earned it. The note read, "If you're reading this, it means you stayed." Michael and I looked at each other, stunned. We kept searching, and by the time the sun went down, we had uncovered nearly $600,000 in hidden cash, savings bonds, rare coins, all stuffed into the very bones of that cabin. Some were marked with handwritten labels like 1959 Roofing Fund or Emergency Only, not in a bank or safe. It was wild. And oddly emotional. This was his legacy. And he'd hidden it right where he lived, but inside the walls of the place he built with his own hands. A real one. The next morning, while cleaning out the old trunk at the foot of his bed, we found another letter. He wrote, "You boys helped me one summer when I couldn't lift the firewood." I remembered that. Folded in a cigar box, it had both our names written on the front, to Daniel and Michael. It was short but personal. "Your parents were busy, and you never once complained." Didn't say it then, but I remember everything. I remembered hauling logs, eating bologna sandwiches, watching black and white westerns with him on an old TV. But apparently, he had noticed everything. We never told anyone at first. I had nearly forgotten that summer. We were maybe 12 and 14. Our parents left us with him while they went to a wedding. I thought he barely noticed. Not out of greed, but because it didn't feel like something you brag about. It felt like a private thank you from a man who couldn't say it in person. Eventually, we had the money appraised, made sure everything was legal, it's not just wood and dust. Paid off some debt, fixed up the cabin, started savings funds for our kids. And even donated part to a local veterans group in Grandpa Earl's name. The rest. We used it wisely. Today, that old cabin means something different. It's a symbol of silence that still carried meaning, of love that wasn't spoken but was deeply felt. Every now and then, I still go up there alone. I bring a thermos of coffee, sit in the chair he used to sit in, and just listen. And I always think the same thing: love doesn't always come wrapped in hugs or words. Sometimes it's tucked between the studs of a wall, waiting for you to find it.